mynews.studio.
A pill that can make leukemia cells disappear? Are we looking at the decline of toxic chemotherapy?
Today is June 22nd, 2025. Let's dive in. Leukemia remains one of the most difficult cancers, but there's new optimism. Recent clinical trials are showing that targeted therapies can both improve survival and cut down on side effects. Can you walk us through what's actually changing?
The main change is moving away from broad, aggressive chemotherapy and toward treatments that specifically target cancer cells. For example, there's NX-5948, currently being tested at the Christie in Manchester. Unlike older drugs that simply block certain proteins, this one actually degrades them. It breaks them down inside the cancer cell using the cell's own machinery.
So it's not just stopping the protein, it's actually removing it from the cell entirely.
That's right. It's an important step forward for patients with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, especially when the cancer comes back or stops responding to other treatments. By degrading these proteins, the therapy can avoid some of the resistance issues we see with older drugs.
That could be a big shift for adults. But what about children? Leukemia is most common in kids, isn't it?
It is. In kids, especially those with B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia, or B-ALL, there's another major development. The drug blinatumomab, a monoclonal antibody, has been added to standard chemo and has raised 3-year disease-free survival rates from 87% to 96%. That means far fewer relapses for young patients.
How does blinatumomab actually work differently from traditional chemo?
Instead of attacking all rapidly dividing cells like chemo does, blinatumomab activates the patient's own immune system to find and destroy leukemia cells specifically. This way, fewer healthy cells get damaged, and patients have a better chance at long-term remission.
And there's a third new approach here, something about acute myeloid leukemia, or AML.
Correct. Researchers are now focusing on a pathway called NMYC/EIF4G1. Work from the Pelican Lab with NIH funding is developing drugs to block this pathway. The hope is that targeting it will help treat aggressive AML subtypes more effectively and with fewer side effects than current therapies.
All of these approaches are so precise. Why did it take so long to move past traditional chemo?
Well, cancer cells are incredibly complex and can adapt quickly. Chemotherapy has worked for decades, but it's a pretty blunt instrument. It took years of research worldwide to figure out the specific weaknesses in different kinds of leukemia, and then to design drugs that can exploit those weaknesses.
Are these new therapies available now, or are they still in the experimental stage?
Most are still in clinical trials. NX-5948, for instance, is in phase 1. That stage is all about finding the safest and most effective dose. If things go well, approval could be a few years away, but the timeline really depends on the results and on regional regulations.
So even if the early results are good, access won't be immediate for everyone. What's holding things back?
There are a few barriers. Cost is a big one. These therapies, especially monoclonal antibodies and protein degraders, are expensive to make. Not every health system can pay for them. Different countries have different regulatory hurdles, which can slow things down. And you need specialized tests and trained staff, which aren't always available.
So even in wealthier countries, insurance or reimbursement might be an issue?
Exactly. And the gap is even wider in lower-income countries. That's why there's a push for more global funding and for regulations to be faster and more consistent. The aim is to make sure these treatments reach every patient who needs them, not just those in well-funded health systems.
Why should this matter to people who aren't dealing with leukemia?
Because it demonstrates what can happen when researchers and institutions from around the world collaborate. These advances are a model for fighting other cancers. They show that innovation can improve lives everywhere, but only if access is prioritized along with discovery.
So the research is moving quickly, but making sure nobody is left behind is the real test.
That's the essential point. The scientific progress is real, but the job isn't finished until all patients, wherever they are, can benefit.
Today, we've explored how targeted therapies are changing the landscape for leukemia, from protein degraders to immune-based drugs and new pathway inhibitors. The science is advancing, but the core question remains: who gets access and when?
Thanks for listening. If you want more information about these developments, check the show notes for sources.
Thank you for joining us. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it for free.